Hello everyone, my name is Joshua. This is the 113th video of my video journal series. Today's day is Monday, the 1st of June 2026. How's everyone been? I've been pretty good, thank you. But something that's been on my mind recently is Groundhog Day, more specifically the concept of Groundhog Day. And it came around when I was watching some clips of the Bill Murray classic, Groundhog Day, that movie. If you haven't watched it, I highly recommend you do, because it's basically about a man who is forced to relive the exact same day of his life for decades in an endless time loop. And it's only broken at the end of the movie, but some people estimate that Bill Murray's character was in that time loop for up to like 40 years. And it really got me thinking about, what if I was stuck in a time loop? To some extent, this video journal series, it seems a little bit mundane. It's just basically me talking in front of a camera every single night. Um, and I guess that's the closest thing I've had to like a time loop. It feels a little bit weird sitting down on this couch for over 100 videos straight. But yeah, I guess obviously I'm gonna lay down some rules, right? If I was stuck in a time loop, let's up the ante. Instead of 40 years, I reckon 100 years. What if I was stuck 100 years living the exact same day over and over and over again for 100 years? Or how many days there are in 100 years? I'll call days repeats in this instance, because I feel like you know, if I say 7 days, it will imply 7 days from now. But I feel like repeats would, or day repeat will be a more accurate measure. So let's say I had to live 100 years, the exact same day, over and over and over again. Everything plays out the same, but obviously, depending on what I do, things can change. And obviously, yeah, 100 years, and let's say, well, that's pretty much it, yeah, 100 years. I can keep track of time. For instance, I can maybe you know man, what would you do to keep track of time? I heard the original concept of the Groundhog Day movie was having Bill Murray's character read a page every single day out of the library to keep track of time. I'll most probably do something similar to that. I'll have to implement a way to sort of track time just in case, like, you know, maybe how would I do it? Maybe reading a page out of a book every single day, and maybe doing that at a library where they got thousands of books. Or maybe you know walking once. No, that wouldn't really work. Would there be any other, I guess, measures like that, keeping track of all the houses along the street? All right, today I'm gonna walk to number 64, and then the day after I'm gonna walk to number 62. You can keep track of all the I guess houses, sort of thing. I guess that could be used as a counting measure, but you'll need a piece of paper to do that, to plan a route. And assuming each day resets, you can't really keep that piece of paper. So yeah, I think reading books out of the library will probably be your best shot to keep track of time. So yeah, I'm sticking with that. And if I had to pick a day, I would actually pick the day where I'm most free. Now, obviously, with the Groundhog Day concept, you can just pick whatever day of your life, even if you have to catch a flight on that day, right? You can just easily avoid that because it's Groundhog Day. It's not going to matter, because it's just going to repeat, repeat, and repeat until it's the last day where the loop breaks. But, I'll pick a day where, even though it's Groundhog Day, and even if I have school on that day, a commitment, I can just easily dodge it. I would like to do a day where I'm free, because obviously I don't want to forget that the loop breaks, but I feel it'll make things more interesting. And obviously it'll be kind of annoying having to wake up every single day and just find a way to get yourself out of that commitment, because obviously if you do the exact same excuse, it's going to be so mundane, it's going to mess around with your brain. So I like to do a day I'm free. Maybe today. Today I was pretty much doing nothing. So I'll pick a day with good weather and a day where I'm free. And let's say I had to do today, right? June the 1st, Monday. don't like Mondays, but hey, it's a day off for me. So what would I do? That is actually a very good question. I do not know what I'll do for 100 years. I guess, like, obviously the first thing I'll do is hop on a train somewhere, go to. Oh, that's another way you can do it. Go to one train station every single day along a train line, and you can keep track of all the stations. That's another way you can keep track of time, though, given how many railway stations there are in Sydney, New South Wales, and Australia as a whole. You'll quickly run out of train stations. So, like, unless you're gonna do like repeat stops and all that, like count how many times you've been along the T1. Like I've been along the T1 for 50 times since this time loop has started. T1 maybe has like, I don't know, like around 30 train stations, or 20 train stations. So I guess you could sort of do that, though. It would be another, I guess, inconvenient method. So anyway, yeah, I guess I'll hop on a train, go somewhere very, very far away, and I'll just explore that area, and slowly, I'll, you know, go to the next stop. I'll go to the stop previously. So if I go all the way end of the line, I'll go to the second last stop, then the third last stop, then the fourth last stop, just to make things a little bit interesting. But yet again, I'll quickly get bored of that. I can't keep on catching a train to the exact same spot. Um, and eventually, I would have had visited every single train station in Australia. I think there's like around 2,000 something train stations here in Australia. Which I guess will take me, it could take me like less than a year to do. But obviously, it has to be a day where I have like enough resources. I'm not going to rob a bank or anything like that. I'm not going to commit any crimes during my time loop. I would not do that. So, like, I guess if I had foresight, but that kind of breaks the whole Groundhog Day concept. If I had foresight, I would save enough money where I can just easily splurge it on traveling as far as I can within a single day. Because assuming my money doesn't carry over, so before I go into Groundhog Day, I want to have like enough money and resources to like, I know if, like even like $50,000 is a lot of money, and like no one could spend that in a day unless you like Jeff Bezos. But it's, I guess, a nice assurance to have. Like if I want to travel around the world as much as I can within a single day, just like hop from one city to another. Yeah, so I guess traveling will be my like top priority because I like to travel. I'll travel all around Australia if I could. Within my Groundhog Day loop, I'll go to like every small town. But yet again, though, I'll like start all the way back at my house. So, assuming it will take like a day to get there, as soon as I get there, then the time loop repeats, and then I'm suddenly back at my house. So that is a problem. So it have to be like a day trip. Unfortunately, it have to be a day trip. I can't really explore like, Japan or the UK or whatever, because it takes a long time to get to those places. So I think I'll have to do maybe the state, New South Wales, and maybe just like areas around Sydney. But even then, you'll get really bored of that. So I guess traveling. And then I'll like, I guess something I'll do along the way is just eat at like all the high end restaurants, right? Just eat at all the places I always wanted to go to. Just get like the fanciest restaurant here in like Sydney and just eat there. And just like invite like a couple of my mates, and they're like wondering why is Joshua being so generous all of a sudden. He's inviting us to like a very fancy dinner with like $1,000 champagne bottles. I'll certainly do that. Splurge on myself and splurge on my friend. Come to think about it, I could also get like a credit card. Obviously, it'll be annoying having to like, apply for a credit card, and those aren't like day long things. You got to do like weeks in advance. Man, I guess like, yeah, and any money I earn during the period will obviously be for like nil. So, yeah, I'll just spend whatever I have in the bank. Just keep on doing that. go to all the high-end restaurants, and then slowly make my way down. Um, but yet again, I want to save like some of the high-end restaurants for like later, because obviously it'll be like boring going to the exact same restaurant over and over again. You'll have like everything off the menu, and you just like, oh, pasta for the 1000th time, not metaphorically, actually. um, so yeah, like obviously, yeah, traveling, I'll eat at all the high end restaurants, and just slowly make my way down, to the point where I'm just eating like at every single Macca's in Sydney. um, obviously I'll travel as much as I can around Australia, but it have to be within a day, so maybe like catching a flight to like Darwin or Perth, that will be understandable. But I can't like fully explore those cities because it's only within 24 hours. Um, Man, what else? Yeah, all higher restaurants. I can't like when it comes to video games. It really is a double-edged sword. Like I can play. I got all the time in the world. I can play like all the video games I could ever want. I can purchase them. I can just go on a shopping spree on Steam. That's another thing. A shopping spree. I'll get onto that one later. Um, but yet again, though, it will have to like be a non like RPG, because RPGs take like forever unless like you're a speedrunner. Maybe that's a skill I could master. Speedrunning. You know what? Screw it. I'll actually master speedrunning at like Final Fantasy VII, and all those like lengthy JRPGs. I'll try to complete those, and beat like the world record. That's something I will do. I'll practice my speedrunning skills, and people are like, why are you so cracked at like this game? And I get like the world record for like like nearly all my favorite games, as much as I can master in like 100 years. Um, I'll become like the top speedrunner in the world just overnight. Say I'll play like I'll do a lot of speedrunning. I'll master my speedrunning skills. I'll also take that time to learn a foreign language, maybe like Japanese or German or something like that. Just like a very difficult like language. Not German. German's pretty like moderate for English speakers, but maybe like Japanese or Chinese. I'll learn that. I'll come like fluent in every single language if I can. I'm not Superman or anything, but I'll try to be fluent in every single language. Maybe within 100 years you could be fluent in every single language. Who knows? Yeah, so like learn as much languages as I can. And also I've got like a massive like shopping spree, Sure, these items will only last, less than 24 hours, but I'll buy everything, I'll give my friends gifts and all that, as much as is in my bank account, obviously, and as long as it's not like the last day, you know, I'll do that, why not? Next day is just going to be a repeat. Um, yeah, and I think that's pretty much all that comes to mind if I was stuck in the Groundhog Day loop. Yeah, again though, obviously I'm not gonna like be like Bill Murray and like do horrendous things or that if you've seen the movie. I won't do that. Because I don't enjoy doing stuff like that. But like I guess like if you think more about the concept of free time, there's a lot of things I'll love to do if I have like the time for it or motivation. But knowing that every day resets, I could just like go out every single day. But obviously, you gotta like educate yourself because clearly, right? Like I can explore every inch of um, Sydney, basically, or at least like the CBD area. I can explore every single inch. But eventually, that's just gonna get boring. And I feel like it's a very interesting concept, the time loop. One of my favorite movies, Urusei Yatsura 2 Beautiful Dreamer, um, has that time loop concept, and it came out before Groundhog Day. It came out in 1984. Groundhog Day was like 93, I believe, or 92. Um, yeah, so basically, it's basically like the same sort of concept. A bunch of high schoolers are trapped in a time loop, though I think the time loop in Urusei Yatsura 2, I think it's like a couple of years. Because technically, like, spoiler alert, it's all. If you're like, I'm giving you a spoiler alert, you can just jump ahead 10 seconds in the video if you don't want to hear spoilers for Urusei Yatsura 2. It's all basically a dream. They relive the exact same dream. within that movie. So yeah, I guess obviously Groundhog Day was like supposedly 40 years. Urusei Two Beautiful Dream. I don't think it's confirmed how long the students in that movie. By the way, it's like an anime movie. How long the cast was stuck in that time loop in that movie? I would have estimated, at least a couple of years. Um, because it's very like they show like a town which is like very like post-apocalyptic. So yeah, I don't actually know how long the time loop lasts in Urusei Yatsura Two Beautiful Dream. It could be like maybe 1, 2 years. It could be a decade even. I don't think it's confirmed. I think with time loop movies, they never like to say how long the time loop has gone for because it kind of like ruin the magic. Instead, it's like very ambiguous, but it's mostly left to the I guess like the viewer to decide. And I guess it's not so much about time because it's very interesting. If you relive the exact same day of your life, like if I were over 100 years, um, like I'll eventually lose track of time, and eventually time would just become null. It would be worthless to me, basically. Um, and you just, it's very like psychological. I'm very interested to know that what if like stuff like immortality and all that, basically being immortal for 100 years. Um, it's very, it's very deep and psychological, and eventually I feel like it'll be focused on the self. Just focus not necessarily on survival, but rather once, I guess, more of a question of not if I'll survive the day, but how long I can survive for. Where it's like, the time is ticking, and but it doesn't really impact you. You don't really feel a sense of urgency or like I have to be here sort of thing. Like, all right, well, I it doesn't really matter. It's just it's I can't explain it in words, but you know, I feel like being in a time loop would it would be extremely boring, but it will, I guess, raise a lot of thought provoking questions for me. Um, it'll give me time to, I guess, do some self improvement, improve upon my literacy skills and language skills and learning skills and all of that. Um, but it's basically like the same effect of being stuck in space for like 100 years. Just like nothing around. It's all darkness. Just like how you interact with the world around you. Everything happens the same. You basically feel that sense of social darkness. But anyway, I got a little bit too deep in here. But yeah, that's how I would personally feel about like a hypothetical Groundhog Day situation. And I feel like there's some moments in my life where I feel like it is Groundhog Day, or there's like some deja vu. I'm like, I swear I relived this day, like, you know. And I think that happens, when we're like forced to do the exact same thing over and over again. People going to school every like weekday, clocking into work. That can feel like Groundhog Day. COVID-19 isolation definitely felt like Groundhog Day. Um, but yeah, like unlike COVID, when we were trapped in our homes, assuming I have as much freedom within 24 hours as I can, I would, I would focus on, I guess, living the best life that I can, but not in like a hedonistic way. I'll focus more on, yeah, of course everyone says this, but I'll focus more on, I guess, trying to do the things, that if I had more time, I would love to do, but given my, I guess, current situation, even right now, even though I'm off and I have all the time in the world for a while, but um, assuming it's 100 years, I will definitely learn some language skills. I'll definitely, do that. I'll definitely, obviously eat at all the high end restaurants, go on a massive shopping spree, raise a few eyebrows on why I'm spending so much money. But, I'll try and live that day with friends also, because you don't really get tired with friends. And get to know your friends well, and make new friends, get to know every single person in Sydney. I feel like you could do that in 100 years. Let's say if you do like 50 people in a day, um, and there's like 4 million people in Sydney. I feel like you can easily do that in 100 years. Or maybe not even 50. You can possibly do like, now how many days is it 100 years? I did not do the math. 3, 6, 9. Yes. All right, maybe like, yeah, maybe like 50, if you get to know like 20 to 50 people well, depending on like how well you can develop your social skills, you can like meet a lot of people and get to know everyone like um, very well. At least, um, a couple of thousand people. I'm not sure if you can remember like 4 million people's names and all that. Maybe in 100 years you can, but I'm not very good with names. I'm very good with faces, though. I could do well with faces. Um, so, yeah, I get to like, know people well, hang out with my friends every single day, but we go to like different places and all that. Um, you know, but at the end of the day, it would be extremely mundane. It must probably mess around with my mind a bit to the point where I'm like, I'm kind of sick of just living the lavish life. Um, I wish I could just live another mundane in my life, but have it be like June 2nd, for instance. Um, so yeah, I guess like to sort of conclude, what would I do on a hypothetical Groundhog Day? So now, what if I was trapped on a Groundhog Day? Um, Obviously, I would not rob a bank or anything like that. I would, spend that time, 100 years, basically mastering every skill that I wanted to, and really doing all the stuff that I wanted to do, but I didn't have the time to do it, previously. I would obviously live lavishly. I'll live very fancy, lavishly. I'll buy like every single day. I'll just buy a new suit. Just from like the most expensive suit store here in Sydney. Just for fun. Just trying on different suits. Um, and obviously, I'll buy a train ticket to go like as far west or south or north I can. Um, or maybe I could buy like a airplane ticket to New Zealand because New Zealand isn't too far away from Sydney. It's only around like 4 hours, so I can most probably buy a plane ticket and explore around New Zealand for a bit. Um, but yet again, though, you got to think of like stuff that you can do within 24 hours. Like you might not be able to beat certain games within 24 hours in like one sitting, but you can most probably like learn a couple of new words of a language within 24 hours. You can certainly learn like a sentence of a new language every 24 hours. That sort of thing. And assuming like obviously no materialistic or social connections move on unless it's like the final day. You have to keep track of time. Would I keep track of time? That's a good question. I said previously, obviously, I'll try to read like a book out of a library. I'll try to read a page out of a book out of a library every single day. Um, but eventually, there'll be a point where I like stop doing that, and obviously, I'll eventually lose track of all the books that I've read. And I feel like, at that point, that's like the most scariest. Like not knowing if it's been 30, 50, or 80 years since the time loop began. That will honestly be like terrifying. Not knowing, and it would like scare the hell out of you if you like wake up and realize, oh, it's like June 2nd. It must like fill you with like measurable happiness, but like it'll give you like a startle for sure, you know? And yeah, honestly, like, you know, I feel like in some ways, I've definitely had some deja vu with my life. There's definitely been like some times in my life where it's nearly been Groundhog Day, where I've just waken up, done the exact same thing, or maybe where I just stayed home all day and just like watched YouTube or play games. Those days definitely feel like Groundhog Day. Come to think about it, there's a certain trend in Japan I know called hikikomori, which is basically people who stay in their rooms for a long or extended period of time. To some extent, that will be Groundhog Day. If you were to stay in your room and just live in the exact same social environment, in the exact same four walls, every day of your life, for maybe even like just a couple of weeks, months, years, um, that sort of hikikomori culture, there will basically be Groundhog Day, and obviously, I like it is, I guess, socially impactful. Greatly affects your mental well-being and all that. You eventually be driven, I guess, in some way insane by that concept of a Groundhog Day. But yet again, though, I guess that teaches us something about life. And this is my little wise quote for today. That is always to seek new experiences. Obviously, living the exact same day of your life, um, it sounds dreadful. Even if it's the happiest day of your life, reliving that day for 100 years, it takes some of the value away from that happiness, because, like a wedding, for instance, weddings only happen a few times a year, if like depending on your social circles and all that. Going to a wedding every single day of your life, it just takes away some of that value because it's something that you do every single day. And you eventually get sick of it, even if it's like a wedding for a loved one and all that. Doing that for 100 years straight, you eventually eat like everything on the menu, and like, um, you can just like taste the salad, you can taste the pasta, you can taste all the food already before you even had it. So yeah, my tip in life, my little wise quote for today, would be always seek new experiences. Um, if you're over the weekend, go on a day trip if you can. Just um, read a book, consume new media, try something you haven't done before. Obviously, within precaution, don't do anything stupid. But seek new experiences in life, and that can be traveling, that could be, you know, wearing a new fit of clothes, that could be maybe um, altering the schedule up a bit, maybe having a shower in the day instead of at night time. It's just try and mix things around in life. Like, try and mix around the small things to make things a little bit more interesting. Um, why not try and learn a new language, or just try to learn words of a new language. Really just seek new experiences where you can. Like I said, if you have the I guess resources and time to travel, definitely do so. The worst thing that could happen in my life, like, would basically be living around the whole day for 100 years straight. um because I'm someone who likes seeking new experiences, at least at my age, where I'm young. And I guess that'll be also like another thing. Like, if you're old and you're just like living Groundhog Day for the rest of your life, there's not much things you can do given, I guess, your physical ability. But when you're young, you're just given, I guess, a lot more, freedom. Depending on what age. Like, I would love to live Groundhog Day when I'm like 20, maybe not when I'm 16, because like when you're 16 years old, you can't really like catch a flight or anything unless you're like willing to risk it. And then suddenly you realize, oh crap, it was the last day, and now I'm in prison because I did not pay my airfare ticket. So it'll have to be a day where I'm doing nothing as an adult, and I'll use that excuse to basically um, do everything that I've wanted to do but never had the time to. Definitely languages is one. But anyway, I'm getting too ahead of myself. But yeah, always seek new experiences in life. You know, travel to new destinations. Consume, instead of playing that video game you always been playing, or listening to that certain artist over and over again, try listening and consuming new stuff. Try new food. Try, maybe even cooking food at home, even if you're not like a professional chef or anything. Try and learn how to make new dishes, or just do something that you never really thought of, I guess, you know doing, because you've always been putting off due to time and time and time. But like, try and seek new experiences, though not dumb experiences. Play dumb games, win dumb prizes, but doing new stuff in life. And I feel like, obviously, we can all resonate during Groundhog Day. Maybe during like COVID-19. Now, I guess I was the closest to most people when it comes to Groundhog Day. But just being stuck at home, endlessly doing the same activity over and over and over again. That sort of thing. But yeah, honestly, I guess that's what I'll do. But you never really know. Um, And obviously, 100 years is a very long time. Some people live up to the age of 100. I wish I could be that lucky, Um, just like living up to the age of 100 or maybe like 100 beyond. Who knows? In that case, like, you know, when you're 100 years old, you've obviously lived through a lot, but if you just lived through the exact same day of your life, then really, distort a lot of things. It will be like essentially blending 100 years of human history into a single day. I couldn't imagine something like that, but I guess that's my hypothetical Groundhog Day. But anyway, I guess that's enough of me blabbing, but I guess I'll catch you all next time. Bye. See ya. Take care. Catch you all tomorrow.